Now we get into our second conversation for today. At the United Nations Security Council, Sudan had an exchange of words with UAE. So Sudan is accusing the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, of supporting and funding the RSF. Now, for those who don't know, there's been an ongoing civil war in Sudan. It's between the government and the paramilitary RSF. So, and it's been going on since 2023 April. It's over a year now. So this civil war has led to the displacement of millions of Sudanese, millions. Some of them have been they've gone in as refugees into Egypt. They've gone into South Sudan and other neighboring countries. They've apart from the refugee crisis, those people who are still trapped within the country, there's mass starvation. There is disease outbreak. Um, there's been death. Thousands, tens of thousands of people have died. Hundreds of, maybe even more, have been injured. There's been instances of sexual abuse. It's been terrible. So this has been going on for over a year now. We're in June 2024. So over a year now, this has been going on. There's been efforts for peace. I know they've had some peace talks in Kenya. They've had some peace talks also. There's been efforts to make peace, but till now it hasn't turned out to be anything. Neither the government, the legitimate government of Sudan, or the RSF, nobody is budging. Well, that led us to this instance that happened at the UN Security Council, where Sudan criticized the UAE, accused them of supporting the RSF. Of course, definitely, after they said that, UAE denied it, and definitely they were going to deny it. Well, interestingly, some months ago, I saw a report in Middle East Eye, and in that report, the journalists actually accused UAE of funding and supporting the RSF with the blessing of Washington. I'll link it to this video. It was a detailed report, and this report didn't just point finger at UAE and Washington. It also points finger at some African countries who are working with these external players to support the RSF. I thought the right thing to do is that when there is war like this or when there is conflict like this, the most important thing for the continent is to ensure peace. That's the common sense thing. So this is this what when I saw that report, they called, for example, Uganda was mentioned in the whole thing, Libya was mentioned in the whole thing. Now, when I saw that report, I was so disappointed because how can African leaders, how can you allow yourself? Look at what's going on with the people in Sudan. Yes, you can say, oh, it's Game of Thrones, we are playing politics, and oh, okay, but what about the lives of Sudanese? Don't their lives matter? Don't these people's lives matter? That they have your name is being called into the conversation of people who are setting Sudan on fire. This is very terrible. This is very terrible. So when I saw that report, I had that in mind. Then the representative of the Sudan government at the United Nations requested that UAE be condemned for their activities in by backing the RSF. Now again, last this week, some days ago, I came across a report, but it was in a Romanian outlet, a Romanian media outlet. So I'm still going to link this one. But this one was written in Romanian. So I had to translate with Google Translate. That was how I was able to read it. But anyway, the the media outlet the report stated that United States is looking to get Ethiopia to also back the RSF. Back the RSF in what way? They're asking that Ethiopia provide um, mercenaries and also provide weapons to the RSF. In return, United States is going to recognize Somaliland. Here's what I have to say, and this is the reason I'm bringing this up. If you've noticed a pattern, the pattern is the main interests lie outside the continent. But these external players then work with internal players to get things done within the continent. that is not good for the either the country or the continent at large. If you look at the map of Africa, you're going to see that Ethiopia and Sudan are close. They're really close. So I'm asking the Ethiopians if so the rumor is that the Ethiopian government is considering Washington's proposal. But I want to say to the Ethiopian government, look at the map of Africa. Look how close you are. How really close Ethiopia is to Sudan. Don't think that if you set Sudan on fire, the fire will not burn into your own country. Don't deceive yourself to think so. Yet you may be looking for recognition of Somaliland because Ethiopia is also needs access to the sea. I think even at this point, we in Africa, we should be able to be our brother's keepers. Do you get? Even if you're having issue with your neighbor, doesn't mean like Ethiopia is a landlocked nation. Doesn't mean now that you can't do things as simple as access to sea. We can partner within ourselves to use our seaports because we're all trying to grow together. But having said that, you in Ethiopia, don't forget that you also know what it means to be in civil war. Don't forget that you also know what conflict caused the nation. The Sudan, once this civil war is over in Sudan, Sudan would need billions of dollars, probably even tens of billions of dollars to get back on their feet. And it may even take a really long time. That's why we should not allow anywhere violence is. The first thing we should do is to put out the fire. Don't think you will burn your neighbor's house and the fire will not come into your own house. Don't deceive yourself. Ethiopia, I think it was as early as 2022. You're just coming out of a conflict of your own. And the whole thing hasn't even subsided. Don't let anybody pull you into this thing. Don't allow it. We in Africa, we need to understand that nobody no matter how friendly you are to an external player or how much you want to be in the good graces of some external player, there's nothing wrong in wanting to be in the good graces of anybody, especially world powers. There's nothing wrong. But if that thing will require you to set the continent on fire, run away from it. When I saw that report in Middle East Eye, the first thing that came to me was, why is this not a big conversation in Africa? Not yes, we know that there's a civil war going on in Sudan, but the fact that countries were mentioned. I would link the article. You can read it yourself. Countries like Uganda were mentioned, and there was nobody, there was no media outlet in Africa or supposedly working for the interest of Africa. No media outlet even called anybody from the government of Uganda to say, please, excuse me, there's been a report and alleging that you have a hand in the fire that is burning in Sudan. Can you please explain? Nothing. So I want you to understand something. See how things are going on in Israel and Palestine. The whole world is shouting. That's good. Things are going on between Russia and Ukraine. The whole world is shouting. That's good. But when it happens in Africa, it seems like Africa is just at the it's like the only time they make like the whole world remembers Africa is when they need our minerals, which I'm coming to in the next segment. That seems to be the only time that they remember Africa. So if you understand this is the situation, the way the world is already functioning, it's up to us to look out for each other. It's up to us to look out for each other. So not when we are calling the list of people who are setting Sudan on fire, and we'll be calling African nations. How about now? That's terrible. That's terrible. Speaking about how it seems like Africa is not in the mind of anybody. Yesterday, I was doing something on YouTube and I saw a post from Al Jazeera. And the post stated on YouTube, like these YouTube polls that are done. So the question was, which of these regions do you want? I'm paraphrasing now, but I'm going to find it and put it on the screen. Which of these regions do you want to find? Are you interested in more news stories from? And so there were four options. There was Middle East, there was Americas, there was Asia, and there was Europe. Africa was not there. They were listing the areas of the world and asking their viewers, which area do you like news from? And Africa was not there. Now the argument can be, well, in that YouTube poll, there's only space for four. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if that is true. I'm going to check. But at least that's the argument that it can only be just four options. So that's why they were able to bring out only four. My counter argument is, if it's just four options, why didn't you do it Middle East slash Asia because the Middle East is in Asia. It's a part of Asia, so it's a region in Asia. So why don't you just put Asia slash Middle East to give room for Africa? So that post was, I thought it was very, hmm, it was very awakening for me. It was a real wake up moment for me because when push comes to shove, Africa is least of the world's worries. The only thing they, based on history, the only thing they seem to want from Africa is what is under our earth, our rare earth minerals, what is under our ground. Because I don't understand how a big media outlet like Al Jazeera will be asking their viewers which area of the world do you like to get more news stories from. They give four areas Africa was missing, as though Africa doesn't matter to the world. So that's why I'm saying that we as Africa, all we have really is each other. So we need to get out of this habit of playing with external players to cause conflict within our countries and our continent and think it will end up, it doesn't end up well for, look, okay, let me give you another example. Look what happened with Thomas Sankara. We all know that it was, it's not a secret anymore that it was the CIA doing the bidding of Belgium. No, external players in essence. Or who, by whose hand did he die? An African. By whose hand did Thomas Sankara die? An African. Not just an African, his friend. But then what happened to Burkina Faso after he left? The country plunged into into a disaster. What happened to Burkina Faso? Are you following what I'm trying to say? So if we give ourselves this, if we keep behaving like this, at the end of the day, we're the only people who will lose. History has shown us several instances. So there's no how that Ethiopia or Uganda or Libya, you think you can do and get it. Even Libya, you have experience of external players coming to set your country on fire. You have that experience. So work with outsiders, yes, but don't work with outsiders to the detriment of your country or the continent at large. At the end of the day, like I have said, all we have is each other. No, let's look at each other. Let's hold ourselves to account like brothers and sisters, like siblings, because that is the only way we can stand up and stand up with pride on the global stage. That's the only way we can stand with pride on the global stage when we stand together to pursue the interest of Africa.